Just when you thought it was over. Just when you thought that you had heard the last from Dominique Alexander, the fake activist, the baby shaker that is representing Karmelo Anthony and his family, just when you thought you weren't going to see or hear from him anymore, he's back. He's back to make himself look like even more of an ass, like even more of an idiot. And he's back to make Karmelo's family look even worse than they already do. How does it get worse? Well, you're about to see. And of course, he's back to once again, as if they haven't been going through enough, he's back to throw some shots at Austin Metcalf's father. Now, he said that at that last press conference, he said that he wasn't going to be speaking out anymore, that we wouldn't hear from them anymore until trial. And I knew that was BS. I knew he would find a reason to come out and try to get some attention again. It literally took this guy like 2 or 3 weeks to put together 12 minutes worth of words, folks. Today he put out a video to address the press conference where the family came on there and lied and cried about the donation money. He has now put out a video addressing that press conference weeks later because he's desperate for attention. And look, I'll spare you guys. I won't make you sit through the whole entire video because most of it is just fake black pastor jibber jabber nonsense. A bunch of my testimony. And you know, all of the Karmelo Anthony supporters at home are watching like, preach. They're having, they're catching the Holy Ghost at home in their lazy boy chairs as they watch this little video where he talks about his testimony. But just in case you didn't know, his testimony is that he beat up a 2-year-old child to the point that their brain started hemorrhaging and the retinas detached from their eyeballs. That's his testimony that he talks about for like 10 minutes in this video. And he starts off by talking about how he doesn't care what people are saying about him. That he's tried and true and he's built for it. He's ready for whatever. And it's funny because usually people who don't care what people say about them, they don't have to make a video talking about how they don't care what people say about them. Let's go ahead and roll a little clip.
Different people rush to do videos and do this. And I really don't care about what no one says about me. I really don't. I don't care about the racist pricks who want to say things about Dominique and say something about my past. I really, quite frankly, don't. If you personally know me, you know your attacks towards me only do one thing: boost my ego, right? The reality is I really, quite frankly, don't give a damn, right? So I just want you to truly understand that. So you attacking my posts, you saying my name, you tagging me, you doing all this, that's really not going to help your cause because I'm tried, tested, and proven, y'all. I've been doing this over 10 years. Yet saying things about me, man, you're going to waste your time, your speak, your everything. Putting 45 minutes on Instagram or whatever you want to do to say that Dominique Alexander is the Antichrist. I wouldn't give two cahoots, right? Because you don't know me. You don't know anything about me. And yet trying to post my background or whatever it is. Let me say this real quick. I'm the first person to tell my own testimony. Nobody have to tell it for me. At the end of the day, I was the most talked about individual over the course of 10 years, right? So trying to use a moment to yet come out and say stuff about my background that I've never hidden. Maybe y'all should do some research to see when my background was actually released. Maybe you should do a research and see how many times on social media I post my mug shots. You ain't got to tell that story. at the end of the day, there's more mug shots than what you actually posted, right? Let me make that very clear. So keep on digging. Do whatever you want to do. Just keep on saying it, whatever it may be.
I always find it hilarious when people like this guy go on these little rants thinking that they're sounding cool. Because the reality is, this only sounds good to like the ghetto ratchet portions of the black community. You know, the ones that celebrate the murder culture, the ones that are celebrating Carmelo Anthony. This jibber jabber, this hibbity hoopla, it sounds good to them. But it doesn't sound good to anyone with an IQ over like 75. It doesn't sound good to anyone with even, a basic level of common sense. But as I keep telling you guys, they know who their audience is. They know who they're pandering to. But by far the craziest part of this video is when he goes on this tangent talking about how disrespectful it was for Austin Metcalf's father to be there, and how he wouldn't listen when people were telling him to leave, how he wouldn't listen when people were telling him to move. And he was just talking about how bad that was, how disrespectful that was, how crazy it was, how wrong it was. But never in his little brain did he stop to think about the case that we're all talking about right now, the case that he is involved in. They've been making the argument this entire time that it's racist, that it's wrong to ask Karmelo to move from an area where he wasn't supposed to be. Mind you, all of this started as crazy, as insane as it sounds. It sounds insane to civilized people. It doesn't sound insane to Karmelo supporters, unfortunately. We know how they get down. But Austin lost his life because Karmelo was in a place that he wasn't supposed to be, and people asked him to leave, and he refused, right? That's how it all started. Now, this entire time, Karmelo's family and Karmelo's supporters and the baby shaker Dominique Alexander, and I say shaker just to kind of be nice here on this platform because it's worse than that. But there's certain things you gotta tiptoe around here, folks. But he literally is going off on this tangent about how bad it is that he was asked to leave and didn't, or he was asked to move and didn't. Meanwhile, he's here defending a man that stabbed a white child in the chest because he didn't move when he was asked to. Instead, he just acted out violently, which Jeff Metcalf didn't act out violently. But with that being said, I just want to show you this portion of his little video because it's important for you guys to see. But first, if you guys enjoy this channel, if you support the videos, consider supporting via Cash App or Super Thanks, or support for free by liking the video, subscribing, ringing that notification bell, dropping a comment below, and sharing the video on social media. But with that being said, let's go ahead and listen to this delusional nonsense, and then I'll be right back with more thoughts.
Let me say this. The Anthony family didn't even know that Austin's dad was even in the facility. They didn't know that Austin's dad was here until he was actually removed by DPD. One of our security people asked him to move back. He looked back at him like he was entitled or like he didn't have to move, whatever it may be. We didn't even know who he was at this time. We just asked him to step back. Then one of the members of the media told us that, hey, that's the dad. I said, the dad of who? I said, who? What? He was like, yeah, that's Austin's dad. I said, I know you lying. Like, what? He can't be here. And so what we initiated is making sure that we secured the facility. Let me make this very clear. The Anthony family didn't even know he was here. But how do we know what he came here for? He didn't come and asked or come to us and said, he just stood there. We didn't know what was going on. We didn't know if we started the press conference, and I'm not accusing him of anything. We didn't know if he was going to pull out a gun. We didn't know what we didn't know. But at the end of the day, what we just wait and just say, oh man, just let's start the press conference. We didn't pat anybody down coming into the facility. We didn't look at everybody. We didn't know, y'all. But these YouTubers and TikTok and all these people started to rush to judgment. I'm being insensitive. I'm being this. I have a press conference with a whole media press corps in a family that I have to ensure the safety of. NGAN had at least 12 people on our security team that day. We could have removed him if we wanted to. We could have literally done that. But no, what we did was we tried, because of the sensitivity of the case, allow DPD to handle it. If anybody that was there, no, we didn't lack security, right? But where he came in and approached, we could not allow him to stay there. Not only outside of the fact that this is a current pending criminal case, right? And the press conference was about the Anthony family and their use of funds. The funds that they have not even received yet at that time. So it wasn't really about the particulars of the case. It was about these false narratives that came out about how they were using their funds.
Just absolutely insane, extreme amounts and levels of hypocrisy. And sometimes I ask myself, is it stupidity? Is it stupidity? Is that why they can't put two and two together and realize what hypocrites they look like? Or is it a lack of shame due to never being held accountable for one's actions? I don't know what it is. But to sit here and play victim and play upset because he showed up and wouldn't move when you asked him to, when you are here in support of a kid that unalived someone, took the life of another child because he didn't want to move when he was asked to. And then he's like, well, I don't know if Jeff had I don't know if he had a weapon or what. Yeah. It's just so ironic because, yeah, the same could be said about Karmelo. We know what he had, right? But look, we already knew that this guy was an idiot. We already knew he was a race baiter. We already knew he was a Timu, Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton type of character. You know, we get it, right? We knew that he was like the the Tubi version of like a real movie type of guy. We get it. We know that he's this generic activist figure. We already knew that going into this video. But what this video really does expose, which is something I recognized early on, but it really just puts it on full display. It just shows what a narcissist this guy is. It really shows that for him, the Karmelo Anthony Austin Metcalf story is about him. For him, it's not about Karmelo. It's not about the Anthony family. It's damn sure not about Austin Metcalf. He says he didn't even know what Austin Metcalf's dad looked like. And I feel like that's crazy. Because I knew what Austin Metcalf's dad looked like on day one. And I'm not directly involved in this situation representing anyone's family. I'm not on the ground walking around with Karmelo, you know, deeply entrenched in this story. And that way I'm covering the story. I'm all over the story as far as coverage goes. But he's like attached to this story on a whole nother level, yet he didn't even know what Austin Metcalf's dad looked like. So you're some type of leading voice in this story, but you don't know what Austin's dad looked like? You didn't watch the news clips of him talking like everybody else did. So I just think that's kind of wild, right? It shows you that for him, he hasn't even been paying attention to this story as closely as I have. He hasn't even been paying attention to this story as closely as you guys watching this video. Because if you're watching this video, you've been paying attention, right? But I didn't even know what Austin Metcalf's dad looked like. I had no clue, blah, 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 blah. Because for him, he's the center of this story. The details, the facts, what's going on surrounding the case doesn't matter. What matters is what's going on with him. Which is why after a couple of weeks, when the attention was running out, everyone started talking about Shiloh Hendricks and stuff. All of a sudden, he comes out and drops a video reacting to something that happened a couple of weeks ago. Late as hell. And the entire time, this guy is talking about himself. Nothing else. He's talking about himself. Literally bragging about how known he is, how well known he is, and how talked about he is. Like literally, just take a look.
Never saw him a day in my life. So I didn't point him out and say, oh, he got to go. I didn't even know who he was. And so this rush to judgment, these attacks on our organization, the attacks on me or whatever it may be, man, keep them going, right? I'm built for that, okay? I'm ready for it. I really don't care. We are here for a moment. We will continue to speak truth to power where it's needed. Anybody trying to come or shoot shots at me, bring them, baby, because I promise you I can stand on mine. 10 toes down, I can stand on mine. I've been doing it for the last 11 years, being the most talked about organization, individual in this 10 years in the Dallas-Fort Worth market. I've traveled across this country. I have wins, bona fides, have stood for so many different families when they couldn't even speak for themselves. This is not the first national case. NGAN was the organizer of the McKinney Pool Party incident in 2015. We brought over 25,000 people to McKinney, Texas. That's the largest protest in that city's history. In 2015, more than 10 years. We didn't start on this just yesterday. We didn't just arrive as an organization just yesterday. We've been here. Just do your research. And guess what? If you want to take your time out and try to tell my story, all I'm going to say, me, Minister Dominique Alexander, is you don't have to tell my story. I'll tell it myself. I am the best person to tell my life story because my testimony is my testimony. I can always tell my testimony better than anybody. I know where I've come from. I know how far I've come. I know my background, but it isn't my future.
Like you really gotta wonder, right? At least people like me and people like you all watching this video, you know, we're intelligent enough to actually just sit here and actually use our brains and wonder, what does he really think that he's accomplishing with these videos? He's obviously not making himself look any better. But even worse, I really feel like this is working against Karmelo's family. And when I say even worse, it's worse for them. It's good for us. The more this guy exposes himself, the more he looks like a gigantic piece of crap on camera. That's better for us, right? And the more he puts out these videos, we could laugh at him, whatever. But what does he think he's doing for Karmelo's family here? If you ask me, that's an afterthought to him. That's not something he prioritizes. That's not nothing he cares about. I don't think he cares about what damage he may be doing to the case, what damage he may be doing to public perception, how people feel about the case. what damage he may be doing to Carmelo Anthony's family's reputation. I don't think he cares about that. I think he's all in it for personal gain, all in it for attention, regardless if it's negative attention or not. He doesn't care because he's a narcissist, and like he said, it boosts his ego, right? It boosts his ego when people are talking about him and makes him feel good about himself. So, all in all, I'm happy he made this video because he doesn't deny what a piece of crap he is. He doesn't deny that he's a narcissist that feels like he's some popular character in the center of the world, in the center of the universe. He literally admits to it on camera. So it shows you, the people that we're dealing with here, like I've been telling you guys, they're not the sharpest tools in the shed. They're not that bright. And along the way, they're just going to continue to say and do ridiculous things because that's what this guy has a history of doing. And we've looked over his history in previous videos. And I'm sure there's more to come. In fact, I got some details I'll be dropping in a day or two. So ring the notification bell so you can be ready for that video. But for now, we could just all laugh because this video that he put out today accomplished nothing for him. Yeah, maybe he'll get a little bit of praise from some ghetto, ratchet, ignorant, just scum of the earth type of people. But for the most part, he just gave everyone something to point and laugh at while further exposing his character. With that being said, you guys let me know what you think about this down in the comments below. While you're down there, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe, ring that notification bell, and I'll talk to you all very soon in the next one.